One last miscellaneous thing I wanted to tackle is looking at a stream wrapper interface and seeing how this is structured. So if you go to your base file structure in Drupal and open up the includes directory here, and then you scroll down to the streamwrappers.inc file, go ahead and open that. Okay, I'm going to open up this dialog down here, which gives us a quick view of all of the functions and methods inside of these classes. So we have the StreamWrapper interface class, Drupal StreamWrapper interface here, Drupal local StreamWrapper. You scroll down, we have the public StreamWrapper, the private StreamWrapper, and the temporary StreamWrapper. Now we've worked with the public, private, and we've seen a lot of the temporary as well. And notice that the functions inside of these classes are pretty minimal, meaning that they pretty much get their behavior from the classes that they inherit from. So Drupal local StreamWrapper has a lot of functions here, you can see as we scroll down. And StreamWrapper interface also has quite a few. Now if we look at some of the functions that are here under Drupal local StreamWrapper, you'll recognize quite a few of them from PHP functions: unlink, rename, dir name, make dir. These are all PHP functions. So what's happening here with the StreamWrapper is that we're overriding those default PHP functions and supplying our own because we want to add some additional behavior or change the behavior of it. The only two things that are going to change between public and private files, for example, are the get directory path and get external URL. And so let's take a look at these differences here. Okay, in this public StreamWrapper, now this is what's being called when we're getting a file that begins with public : // we're returning a variable called file public path. Now this is the setting that we set in our file settings page for the public directory. And by default, it's going to be the conf path, or where our particular path is for a configuration /files. And if you go down to get external URL, what we do is return the base URL. We get the directory path, and we use Drupal encode path to encode the path. Now if we scroll down to the private StreamWrapper, let's take a look at what's different here. Instead of using the public file path here, we're getting the variable to the private path, which is what we set. And then to get the external URL, instead of constructing a full file path, we're returning a URL to system/files and then the path to the file. And we're rendering it an absolute path here. So this is a URL versus a file path, which we're using for the public one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temporary StreamWrapper here. The get directory path looks for the file temporary path, and then the get external URL returns a URL to system/temporary and then the path. So just like the private file system, this file is being run through a Drupal page through the menu system in order to pull the file out. If you're curious, there's a lot of interesting stuff in the StreamWrappers include file, and you can see what's happening to override the default PHP functionality. In this video, we've covered a ton of material in regards to working with files. We talked about working with managed and unmanaged files, with private and public files, and how to build an entire interface around non-node related files. As next steps, one of the things that we overlooked a lot in these examples was building in sufficient security to make sure that files weren't being uploaded, deleted, or modified by users that shouldn't have permission to do so. So one thing you can do is go through the code and try to tighten it up and make sure that users can't do what they shouldn't be able to do. Add a permission system, make sure to check for those permissions. Another thing you can do is extend the forms to include multiple file inputs. And finally, you can improve error reporting in multiple points throughout the code. So if there's potential for something to go wrong, make sure to capture that and alert with a message that makes sense for the particular error that's happening. If it's something that the user shouldn't be able to see, an error, for example, that suggests that they might be trying to hack into something, then you might want to log that into the Watchdog database instead of displaying an error publicly to the user. And when you're ready, go ahead and move on to the next video.